Hey guys, thanks for joining us. We have David Sakamoto here with me. David has been in customer success forever. I've known this guy for years and years and years. So excited to finally have him on the channel. Gold star for me.
Oh, thank you. No, we've known each other a long time. Yeah, it's been great to watch everything evolve and the community grow and the practice continue to get big, more and more moving from that.
Right.
Oh, I got adoption, I got high NPS, yay, to hard driving NPS be a core part of driving revenue, which is a modern practice now. So.
Right. And I think just to give everybody some context around how long David has been in this, I think you've been one of the very early presenters of the early Pulse conferences, right?
Yeah, it's probably been 7-8 years, I think. Yeah,
so I think like at the second Pulse conference that we had in San Francisco, you were presenting.
It's been a while, yeah.
And this year you were presenting as well.
Yes. Your company values are the foundation for exceptional customer success.
What was your main theme? Tell me a little bit about this session. What did you pick that topic, actually? Why was that important for you?
I've always been really, really passionate about how much values and culture play a fundamental role in building team member experiences, which ultimately allow you to drive good customer experiences. Right. And I've always been fascinated because it's like, if you think of so many really critical aspects of your business, like we measure net retention and rep ramping and quota achievement, there's all of these metrics around things that make a healthy business. But one of the most important ones, your values and the culture of the organization, which attracts talent and builds your brand for your organization, is kind of like unmeasurable, right? Everybody knows it's important. If you're in a place that you've got a great values and really engaged culture, you know it. And when you don't, you definitely know that too. But it's just one of those things. It's like this soft side kind of squishy thing. But I've always just been really fascinated by how critical that is to a company's success. And so it's just an area that I've constantly explored and learned from. Being at GitLab, it's been great because our credit values, which our values are collaboration, results, efficiency, diversity, inclusion, iteration, and transparency.
6 values.
And by the way, transparency, if any of the customer success practitioners are out there, our entire handbook is totally open. Our playbooks, our process, our onboarding, everything out there. If you look there, someone came across and said, is this a mistake? Do people know that it's out there? And it's on purpose. So anybody wants to benefit from that. But it's definitely been a great experience for me, but also it's just one of these things that as a leader, I've just evolved, especially transparency. Probably iteration second, but
it could challenge you if you haven't been transparent about everything. Some areas you're not comfortable in being transparent when it's a company's value.
And GitLab takes it to a
next level.
Yeah. So one of the examples I use when I think every CS leader's had an escalation. I remember, many times this is the meeting, right? You get your product team or your engineering team, your account manager, your CSM, and you get together and you're like, okay, what's the thing? You figure out what the problem is. Okay, what are we going to do? And then the last 10 minutes of the meeting, you go, okay, what are we going to tell the customer?
Are we going to tell them?
Yeah, are we going to tell the customer?
It's even a question. So at GitLab is not never a question.
We tell the customer.
Of course we're going to tell 100%.
The customer. We just tell them. And I've had a couple scary moments where I'm like, are we really going to do that? And we did, because that's what we do, transparency. Yeah. And it's one of those things that is realized.
Builds trust.
It builds trust, right? Exactly. So now there was something I shared in an incident where we had an outage, and this is before my time, it was 2017. And we live streamed the postmortem. We live streamed the retroactive. Went through all the issues, and there was a very detailed report. And when I was looking at my presentation, I actually found someone tweeted about it this April. And so it was one of those things, not only did it have impact then, but people are still remembering it. And this was in context of another solution provider in our same space that didn't lead with transparency. And they were saying, well, look what GitLab did 5 years ago. And guess what? It was probably hard on them to take that jump, but it actually did build trust, and people still remember it. And then ultimately, I think it adds to our brand of that's who we are.
I think that's a great example of why culture and values and being consistent around enforcing values is so, so important. And one of the things that you said at the beginning of the conversation is nobody's measuring it. And I want to say that's true. I just had a conversation with another customer success leader, and she said, my question to her is like, how do you know that whomever you're hiring is actually a good match for your values? And she walked me through her interview process. Fine. You say, okay, all right, so you hired the right people, but how do you know that they're consistently following those values. So I'm sure you talked about that during the session. Yeah.
Definitely that was the first thing we do. And I gave an example where I met a general manager of Ritz-Carlton and said the same thing of like, ultimately what you do is you hire the right people whose personal values align with the company values. And so that always makes it better. And the way that, the way we do it, so we build it into everything we do. So we definitely test for values during the interview process, promotions as well. So our promotion doc is basically our values that people fill in, results, what are the results? So it kind of walks through that. Team members can give each other bonuses. What? And the first thing you do as part of that process is you select one or two values and you describe how this person's exceeded expectations on delivering against our values. So it's definitely integrated into everything we do. During the interview process, the thing is I find is trying to find examples. Can you tell me about an example when, and try to find an example where they showed, like one I always put for empathy for customers is when they put a customer's needs in front of their own, or took risk internally, took a big effort to push representing a customer when it may have been easier to kind of pass on. So
very cool. So you were talking about the values. You're talking about the need to enforce the values even after you hire and hiring the right people.
Yeah.
What have you seen working at GitLab, a company being so passionate about living by those values and transparency being one of them is a big value as well. What has shifted in you as an executive, as a team leader?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been more transparent. So I thought it was, it's funny, when I interviewed for GitLab, I read the values, I did research like most people do.
Yeah.
I'm very transparent, and I gave examples of my transparency. But again, when I came to GitLab, it was like, whoa, this is a whole new level. And it's helped me learn just to appreciate that in the sense of a lot of times making decisions. Yeah. Oh, we're going to talk about it as a managed team, and then we're going to make a decision to tell everybody else.
Right.
And a lot of times what we do at GitLab is here's the decision we're going to make, and allow people to contribute to it. And oftentimes, I could have done it the other way, and we'd have a decision in kind of the transparent format. I've learned oftentimes people will add and make comments or add ideas here. I didn't actually think of that. And I'm glad we thought of that now so we can make the right decision. And it doesn't take more time because it's almost like we crowdsource. Yeah, we're like, okay, we're making a decision in 2 weeks. There's people add on to it and we talk through it and then we decide. And it's a more informed decision. It's a decision that the team members had the opportunity, whether they contributed to it or not, but had the opportunity to contribute to it. Ultimately, it just leads to better outcomes. And again, really driving better team member experiences, which leads better customer experiences. And my statement is you cannot do one without the other. If you don't have good team member experiences, you will not have good customer experiences.
Perfect. So while net retention rate is super important, we won't be able to get there without the right vehicle. And the vehicle, I guess, is the values and culture. And the way that you do that is hiring the right people and then walking the walk.
That's right. Yeah.
Basically,
but I think even it does drive business results. I did show there's studies, and we don't publish our net retention quarterly, but last time we did was the end of Q4, and it was over 151%.
Wow. That's the highest I've heard.
So we're proud about it. We keep working hard.
Yeah.
I think it's a team sport. It's not customer success.
Wow.
It's everybody in the organization that does their job to make that happen.
So if I'm a chief customer officer or a head of customer success, just starting somewhere at a new job, given your experience at GitLab, what would you impart to me? If you were my mentor, what would be my main takeaways?
One, look at our handbook. That's a great place to start. We got everything all documented. So
it's on your website.
Look at Google GitLab handbook, customer success, and or if you want to learn about finance or marketing or anybody out there. But for customer success leaders, I'd start there. So if you're going to build document, not that ours is perfect, and not that I would ever promote just copy and paste, because I think the customer success has to map to the go-to-market and your customer and the DNA of your organization. But that'd be one. The second would be, I'll use one of our values, iterate. Just one thing at a time. And even when I started, I wanted to build everything. But how do you eat a whale one bite at a time, right? So you just focus on the most important thing that's most impact and just work through and iterate, and you will have setbacks, and just keep focused and keep positive and keep driving forward. If you're at first in customer success, you pick a great profession. You're going to love it.
That's it. I think that's a great wrap up.
Awesome.
You're in a great profession. We got some really nice tips from you, and things to think about as an executive that sometimes we get so wrapped up with the NRR and the NPS and come on, culture and values are just so important.
It is important
to get to these really high net retention rate numbers that we really know. It's just really the foundation for everything. everything.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, David, thank you so much for sharing your session and being such a pivot pillar in the customer success community and always being out there and sharing your thought leaders.
You're kind.
And it's been great, and I've learned a lot from you throughout the years.
And likewise.
It's been an absolute honor to have you.
That's what the community is about. We learn from each other.
Absolutely. Guys, this video was sponsored by Rocket Lane. I want to thank Rocket Lane for sponsoring this video. Bye, guys. See you next time.